good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are watching this session today. I'm super excited to be here with you, of course. My name's Fiona Blayney, and on behalf of realestate.com.au, we'd love to welcome you to this session, of course, all about property management and how we can create some efficiencies for you in your business, in your day, give you back more time in your life. This is where it's all going to happen. And if you've seen me before, you know I am super passionate about making that happen for you and changing even just 1 minute, 1 hour, hopefully 1 week, a month, a year, maybe your entire professional career by you providing this 1 hour of investment of your time here with us today. So let's get underway. I've seen in the chat box there, we've got lots of awesome humans from around the country who are joining us live. Of course, today's session is being recorded and will be available for you after today. And we'll shoot through the details as to how you can get access. And of course, stay on and I'll give you some sneak peeks at the end of this session. So let's jump into the chat box. Today is going to be an interactive session. I know that we've already had questions and queries coming through in the lead up to today. So a shout out to those of you who have contributed some of those all important niggly issues that are happening for you, and perhaps even the big audacious ones that you'd like to get some answers to. I am going to try my best to make sure that we can cover off as much as possible in that Q&A at the end of today's session too. So jump into the chat box. I know, like I said, we've got people from all around the country, agencies, groups come together. I'd love you to jump into the chat box right now and let me know where are you from and why have you come today? What is it that you're trying to get out of the session? What do you want to walk away with? Is it a tool, an answer, an insight? Is it some motivation, some inspiration, some education? What is it for you that you'd like to make happen? Let's jump into the chat box now. I'm ready and waiting to get those insights from you. Now, whilst you're doing that, I'm going to open us up to, of course, a presentation that we're going to be running in our screen. If you'd like to change the layout of your screen, the configuration, you can do that in Zoom. No doubt you're all familiar with that. So let's see, what chats have we got coming through here? Let me see what's happening with everyone around the place. Who have we got? I know I can see the guys from Pascoe Vale that are online, our friends over at Woodarts. Hello, special shout out to all of you. We've got some questions coming in. Those from Adelaide, we were just on the phone this morning with our friends down in Adelaide doing some coaching here at the Real Plus HQ. Let's become more efficient. Let's get something new there, Sarah. Love it. The guys at Berwick, hello, Victoria. Learn something new. You know, I think that the reality is, and by the way, you can always chat with me one-on-one in this. It doesn't have to go to the entire group. So if you feel so inclined that you'd like to keep your question private, you can do that. And I will not single you out in this session, but I will certainly answer that question query that you've got. We've got Tassie online. Look, we're getting all the states going here, don't we? We're all here to learn more. You know, I think that one of the great things about lifelong learning, and that's what we've created across the planes of professionalism now. The reality is no one knows everything. Not I. I've been coaching, training, consulting across Australia, New Zealand, the UK and the US. I've been doing that for the last 20 years. I've sat in every seat in the office, probably yours, not physically, of course. Oh, some of you maybe. I know some of those familiar faces. But of course, metaphorically, I've sat in those seats. I know what it's like. I've walked the walk. But the reality is, I still, despite coaching thousands of people, speaking at thousands of events, I still don't know it all, right? So when we come to this, we all come with open mind, and perhaps I'll learn something from you today. We've got our friends from Mudgee. Obviously, we've got some New South Wales coming in, Central Coast there, eastern suburbs. We want to learn more. Look, I love it. I love this learning, hearing from the experts. We're all experts in our own micro field there. How to deal with the stresses and alleviate stresses. Oh my gosh, hands up, real estate agents, but property managers specifically. I know one of my friends in the industry has described the PMs of the nurses of real estate over the last couple of years. Definitely, how can we do that? What can we harness in order to make our life easier? Absolutely. Hi, Deanna and the crew there at Elston Week. All right, let's get into the content, because all of those elements that you've mentioned today, keep the questions coming through, keep interacting. It's lonely on the other side of the screen otherwise. But today, I want to tell you this. What I have been finding in the industry at large is something pretty simple. And the simplicity of it is, I believe that in the main, we're spending a lot of time day to day making doing business harder. It's almost like we go into the office every day with this subconscious thought pattern. How can I make doing business harder? Now, guys, if you've already picked up from that sentence, 101 with Fiona Blayney coming down the lens is that I am going to hit you pretty hard today. I'm politically incorrect. And on behalf of realestate.com.au, I already apologise, but I've only got a short period of time with you. So I want to rattle the cages and break your thought. Doing business doesn't need to be hard. I do not want to have a session about let's make doing business harder. What I want to do is create an outcome for you, which is let's make doing business easier, right? Who's in for that? Let's see a show of hands, obviously there in the chat box and the participants box there. You know, how many of you would like to make doing business easier? Yes, me too, right? But we tend to make things cumbersome and complicated. And the reason being is my favorite word at the moment is space. Can you write that down? Space. Now, when we think about space, we're going to be talking about time. We're going to be talking about efficiencies. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about, you know, not just the airy, fairy, fluffy stuff. I'm going to give you some functional things that you can change right now in your business, effective today, super easy, to give you space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to plan, space to strategize, space to action, space to accomplish, space to serve, right? Space to be the best version of you every single day. Well, almost every day, right? So, you know, challenges, I get that. But we want to make doing business easier, right? How are we going to do that? Well, guys, I think that when it comes to make doing business easier, the reality is that we all want time. Time. When we think about time, and there's 3 elements I'm going to share with you today, this is the first one, because time is this most incredible and complex enigma of life. And it is the one thing that we want to stop, but we cannot stop. You know, when it comes to time, the reality is that that clock is just going to keep on ticking, right? It's going to go round and round. And the only way you can stop the clock is to take the batteries out. But even when you take the batteries out, does the clock actually stop? No, of course it doesn't. Time still marches on. So how do we find more time? Well, I don't have a magic wand. I think that the concept of finding time is that time it's a resource. And whilst we all, and with our magic watches, you know, whilst we're all looking for these magical ways to find more time, it's not possible to just go and create another hour in a day. We don't get to add to the 24 and create 25. We only have 24 hours in a day per human. So perhaps it's not about finding more time, because go looking for it, you won't find it. I've been trying for years. It's about creating space. Creating space to fill that space, to fill that time, to utilize that time more efficiently. Now, in your business, if I was sitting in your business right now and I'm consulting to your agency, I would share with you that there are 3 ways to do that. There are 3 ways for you to create time, to create space in your business. Are you ready for them? Okay, groundbreaking stuff here, guys. The first one is increase resources. So what do I mean by increasing resources? I literally mean going and buying another 24 hours. So when I talk about buying another 24 hours, what do you think I'm suggesting to you that you would do? How do we buy 24 hours? Now, this is not the black market. You know, there's not somebody out there in a cave that you can go and buy hours and add them to your existing day. what would we be talking about in the form of a resource, guys? What would we be talking about in the form of a resource? Right, people, humans, right? What we're talking about in the resource, a resource I'm meaning here, and Charlie, we're going to come back to that technology piece. That certainly factors into time. You can go and buy time by buying people, right? So if I say we've got 5 people in our business, I think we need 20% more time. One of the ways I can do that is to go and buy another person, right? We've got a finite 100% at the moment is sitting at 5 people. I want 20% more. I go and buy myself another 20% to get 120%. I'm at now 6 people. That's a way to do it. Now in business, we know that that's not the most economical, that's not the most profit building, and it's certainly not necessarily the only angle to take. There's another one. We can go faster, right? Have you ever had one of those days where you come into the office, you think you sort of, right, order all the things that we need to get done today, and it's like you power through the work. You are working at double the speed. Guys, you can work faster, right? It's like you can go 20 kilometers an hour, you can go 40, you can go 70, you can go 100. Obviously, the faster you go, the more risks there are when you're in a car, the same thing, motorbike, etc. The faster you go in business, potentially, the more risks that occur. We know that we might burn out, blow up an engine. There's no petrol left because you haven't thrown the fuel into the body for the day, because there's only so much speed that we will be able to maintain for a consistent, long period of time. So some of us, sure, some of us might need to speed up. And that's one way to get it. But creating speed in your office is not the only way. But you might have a couple of snails. Maybe you need to go a little bit faster. Maybe you're not bringing the best energetic form of yourself. And when I talk about that, we could go on to a whole other session about health, well-being, getting the appropriate sleep, what your food intake is, what your exercise intake is, all of those elements that we know contribute to how we arrive in the business every day, every morning, and then the speed in which we get things done. So that's an efficiency piece. That's the second way I would talk to my team or my clients about. The third is, I would say, let's remove process. Now, Charlie, back to your point about technology. When we talk about removing process, I pretty much challenge anyone that, gosh, careful how many of us are online today, that I challenge every business I walk into, and I say, I believe I would be able to instantly remove 5 to 10% of your process. So if you look at a 38-hour week, I believe I would be able to find 3.8, if we look at that 10%, 3.8, somewhere between, let's call it 2 and 3.8 or 2 and 4 hours a week, I would be able to find for you by removing process. Literally going through, metaphorically, through your procedural system with a pair of scissors and cutting stuff out, right? Deleting things off that Word document, that's sitting there. Now, how do I do that? Well, perhaps I'm removing process through technology, Charlie. Perhaps I'm implementing a piece of technology that would do the particular function or the element of the process in a faster time. That's definitely one way. The alternative is that maybe we actually don't need to do that step of the process at all, and we're doing it because we're doing it for safety, for security, because that's why we've always done it. And there are so many things that businesses still do today along that phase. I'll give you an example. I was with a corporate group recently doing a workshop. And we were doing a workshop around 2022 and beyond, and what the future of real estate looks like and what we need to cut. And in part of that workshop, we actually go through process. And everyone picks a process that they want to overhaul, and we discuss it and workshop it and work out quick wins that they can have. Anyway, in the context of this, we sat there and I asked everybody to throw out their photocopier printer. Now, some people had literally, you could see the blood draining from their face, they're going pale, it's white, there's somebody in the office who's literally, like a Greenpeace activist, they're chaining themselves to the printer, photocopier, because life without that, removing that as a process and what that will create was just something that was so foreign to them. But when we unpacked it and went through it, and we were working out, by the way, $1 a minute per human in a business, the tens of thousands of dollars, perhaps even close to $100,000 a year that was being spent on anything paper related, maybe started to tilt in favour of removing the photocopier. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do that. Don't run out and go, Fiona Blayney said we like to throw our photocopiers out. That's not it. But it's a good analogy and a good way of saying you can remove process by just getting rid of it. We don't need to do it anymore. It's something that we used to do. It actually has no necessity in life today. Or we can replace process or part of process with technology. Now, when you're looking at these three, those elements around time and process, part of the process issue, right? So we looked at time, creating space, changing how we do things. 2, we moved into process. Now, with process, one of the things that we know with process is it can be very convoluted. How do you do this? Where do you start? Guys, I suggest you get literally a flow chart where you are mapping out, get some even some post-it notes, throw them up on a wall in your office, get those post-it notes out, map out your current process and start pulling off post-it notes. Now, how do we do that? And I'll give you some examples later in the session around how you can do that. But you're literally removing process, or maybe you've got all yellow post-it notes up and you've got the pink out and the pink post-it note. By the way, what was post-it notes valuable for nowadays? Well, we just found out. Got the post-it note pink, and we're replacing technology. So we keep it and we replace it with technology. We keep it as it is because it's a customer-centric, customer-facing, customer value add communication piece. We keep that yellow, change it with pink because we want to put tech, or we throw it out altogether. And you take yourself through that process. And there's a couple of things I want you to concentrate on there. Number 1 is technology, the technology stack in particular. What we have noticed, particularly across the last couple of years, is that I call it the technology pick and mix. This might be software, systems, process, and we go and we walk down the pick and mix aisle at the local chocolate mart, except we're going down the pick and mix aisle of technology and we're grabbing pieces of tech because it seems like a good idea, because another agency is doing it and they said it was good, and so we think that we need to have it, right? There is a reason that KFC does not sell beef burgers. It's not what they do. So they don't need the beef burger technology, the cooking systems. They don't need the hot plates for cooking meat patties. Perhaps in your business, you've got a whole heap of grills to cook a meat patty, but you don't cook meat patties, right? Now, of course, I'm not suggesting that you've got grills of meat patties in your office. This is a metaphor for the technology that you've got that you don't use, that doesn't serve you, that is actually creating blockages. They are time suckers, not time savers. They are creating a limit between you and the consumer. There's a blockage. You're in there behind the technology, not out in front with the consumer. Some people need to be behind with the technology. I get that. We've got tech that needs to be run and it is used to support us rather than be us. Most of you online today are in what I would call a traditional real estate model, okay? Now, what I mean by traditional real estate model is the easiest way to describe it is by showing you non-traditional. So non-traditional is your small one-man band operator, perhaps operating from home, got 50 managements, very bespoke. Or online, self-service, fee-for-service, tech-driven, not with my local property manager who's looking after my business, my investments. So in a traditional model, sometimes you've got all this tech, you don't need it, it's superfluous, and it's stopping you from getting in front with the client. Technology though, Charlie, as you mentioned, is vital, but it's about having the right gear and making sure that you buy things with intent, that you bring technology into your business with intent. Okay, let me explain that to you. That Apple Watch sitting there, which now I've got. Now, some of you, I wrote an article recently in one of the major publications around my love affair with technology. But what I'm very well aware of is I go and I buy all the gear. If you saw all the camera equipment and microphones and things I've got sitting in my box here that don't get used, It's because I know that I go out, I get excited, I love the tech, I buy it, and then I bring it home, I don't use it, and I put it out to rest. So when I buy technology, I have an awareness around the fact that I just like it, and I know that I'm not necessarily going to use it, but I might play with it. It's a toy for me over there on a gimmick side. But in my day-to-day functional world, I have very succinct reasons and purposes for the technology that I have, both here in my business, so one-on-one coaching, training, consulting workshops, as well as our greater business with our outsourced trust accounting team, our online community, my other consultants and coaches that work with us. You know, we have tools and resources, technology-wise, that we use with purpose. We don't have all the gear and no idea. We have purpose-driven technology purchases and uses. So I want you to think about in your business as we're going through today, what's the tech that we have? Are we using it for us? Yeah, so it's not using technology to its fullest advantage. You know, when someone says, oh, you know, I'm not going to keep that technology because I'm only using 20% of it. I will tell you that I don't even know what low percentage I'm using of this phone, watch, smart device on my arm, but I know that I'm using it for its purpose. For me, its purpose gets me to stand up, keeps an address of my step count. I can do an ECG, check my heart rate. You know, there's certain features that I purchased it with intent to use. I didn't purchase it with intent to be able to take a phone call. I didn't purchase it with intent to respond to SMSs. In fact, I've got that deactivated on my phone, on my smart device, sorry. So it's about technology. Technology can create space, it can create time, but it can create a barrier. So we need to have smart technology, purposeful purchases, and appropriate process actions. These are the elements that will be important, because the third thing I want to talk to you about is connection. And in that traditional model, connection is key, right? Our clients, they come to a traditional real estate agency model because they want you to know them. They want to know you. They want to build relationship. Over the last few months in particular of 2022, one of the key workshops I've been running has a section in it where I talk to the audience, all of you, the profession, around what did you learn in COVID? So what did you learn during this pandemic period about yourself? And the resounding number one thing that people talked about was they talked about connection. And professionals talked about the fact that they couldn't connect in the same way. You know, that belly-to-belly connection with friends, with family, with loved ones. We couldn't travel. We weren't able to go and spend time in social environments, in music venues, in all of the things, you know, that you have not been able to do the same way. But coming out of this period, what did everyone want to do? Well, the first thing you didn't do as soon as we came out of the pandemic was rush to the office. You probably went and saw a loved one, a friend, a family. You connected. And what we've learned from this time is connection is more important than ever. So how then do we envelope the context of creating time with having smart process, but allowing still for connection? Well, some research that came out of the US and the States, and here you'll see one of my diagrams on this, is you'll see over the period of June into 2020 back through to 2019, obviously stats are still coming out ahead of that, is you'll see there that mobile phone calls were actually on the increase. If you have a look, the second, mobile phone texting, right? We moved through email messaging. So the number one way that people preferred to connect in a non-physical way is through the phone, right? Because we can see the dip going down there in a fixed phone line. But on the flip side of that, and sorry, this one's not out of the state. This is in Australia. This is from the Australian Consumer Group. And so what we're seeing here is people still prefer the phone for connection. Now, what do we do about that? Well, from a community point of view, from a consumer point of view, the sentiment coming out of surveys is that in this one here, you'll see 38% of US and 39% of UK's consumers prefer to speak to a live agent, right, on the phone when there's something that's make or break. So let's think about that. When it comes to time, process, and connection, I'm happy to work through the mundane, okay? The process, the automated, the mechanical component of a scenario digitally. But when push comes to shove and we're getting to the pointy end, I want to have an opportunity to speak to somebody. So we've got to create space. What has happened is we've gone through this phase of getting behind the computer and we've almost become the supporter of technology. We have to flip it, get out in front and allow technology to support us. So how can we be efficient whilst creating connection? Guys, we need to leverage technology to create space. So I want you to think about that. Leverage technology to create space. Technology, and when I say technology, that could be process change. So if we think about technology, just even think about it in terms of advancement, efficient advancement. It doesn't need to just be a piece of software. It can be a methodology, a way that you do something, your process change. So doing that should give us back space and time. And what did we say we were going to use space and time for? For thinking, for connection, for creating, for strategizing, for providing customer service. If you have ever hosted a dinner party at home, a dinner party where you have had catering, one of the reasons that you have a caterer come in, notwithstanding the fact that you don't have to cook, is that you have that to give yourself time to be with your guests. You don't get a caterer in to then go and spend an hour doing the washing while the caterer feeds everyone. You use that time to interact with your guests, to connect, to build relationship, to interact, to show support, engagement, to be present in that relationship. Technology, whatever you bring in, be that process or functional technology and software, hardware and software, utilize that same time. Create a process that you're getting out in front. I'm going to keep harping on about this because I want you to get in front and start being with your client. When you are with your client and you are using technology to be with your client, you're going to make doing business easier. Relationships, depth of relationships, trust in relationships in the medium term. So you go through that process of let them get to know you, like you, trust you, so that they'll use you. And when I say use you, they will allow you to manage their property knowing, lease their property knowing, market their property for the first time as new business, knowing that you know them, that they know you, they like you, they trust you, so they're just going to let you get on with it. Now, how can we make doing business easier? Well, of course, today is brought to us by realestate.com.au. So it only stands to reason that I'm going to utilise some tenant and moving-based examples to give you insights as to what you could do practically right now, just in one process. This is this came out of again another online survey. It was in relation to tenants and moving, right? We were looking at some digital moving experiences. Do you find moving house to be stressful? Look at that. 80% of people find moving house to be stressful. So isn't it our responsibility as service providers to appease and attempt to minimise, support some of those stresses by making the process easier? Let's take a look. I think so. And I think one of the ways that we do that is by utilising technology in the leasing phase to support the moving experience, to streamline it, to create space so that the automated administrative components of leasing can be done through supported technology, and we can spend our time at the pointy end when things get hard, when someone wants a human on a phone or connected, that we're available to make that happen. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that in leasing right now. I'm going to show you, and then I want you to apply this across all of your procedures, and I'll give you those insights into creating time, connecting in, and revising our process. Right, in leasing, pretty simple, okay? We're going to move through this quickly. If we've got any questions, while we're online here right now, chat them up in the chat box. What do you guys think of time, connection, and process? Do you already know something right now as you're watching today? Do you already know something that you can immediately take out of your mix? Do you already know a process and you're saying, I ask you, are you hiding by a computer? Jump in the chat box there, or give me a show of hands. Who feels already that, from time to time, I jump in behind that computer screen. I jump in behind email. I say things like, I need to put this in writing, so I'm going to email it rather than call them. Like, I know, guys, again, I can say this because I've been in the seat. I've said the sentence. And I know in saying that sentence, there's a part of me that doesn't want to make the call. There's a part of me that doesn't want to connect with that human on the other end of the phone because it's challenging. It might be confrontational, but the more time we spend connecting, the stronger the know you, like you, trust you relationship grid becomes. And then they use us. They let us get on with the job. So let's take a look at how we can find some more time so that we can connect by revising our process when it comes to leasing. There's five primary, need to learn how to count, there's 5 primary steps that we're going to look at here. Of course, we've got marketing the property, showing the property, the application process of the tenant applying. Let's make that easier, please. We go through the approval process. Oh my gosh, how many phone calls, emails does it take to approve an applicant? Let's speed that up. Even just the management of the email and the comms and the messages and the texts, let's minimize that. Let's create space. And then, of course, that final signing phase and how we can make that onboarding experience easier there as well and more enjoyable, perhaps, a little less stressed. Number 1, let's talk about marketing. Okay. We know that in the marketing space, when you want to market something, you must get that product in front of eyeballs, human eyeballs that show us, hey, this is my target audience, this is where I can find them, and how can I make sure that they are seeing my product? Well, of course, realestate.com.au, which is why you're all here today, is the leading set of eyeballs for renters in this country. When you're in that space, and I know through previous sessions that I have already done for realestate.com.au that you can log in to the Agent Marketing Centre and of course in the Real Plus community. When you're in that space, we know that over in those sessions, we've talked about all of the elements that need to go into some effective marketing. Now, when you have effective marketing, you reduce your inquiries. You reduce time wastage for tenants coming to a property or viewing a property that isn't what they want. You reduce your time wastage in showing a property that's not conducive for that particular tenancy. You reduce then the process and the angst around the process of communicating back to the landlord around a lack of interest, feedback from the incorrect target market. So we know that, number one, you've got to have the best presence on the net. Okay, through realestate.com.au, you can have that. But not only do you need to have the best presence on the net, when you're on there, you need to make sure that that property shines. So off the back of today, please add to your to-do list to head on over to the Agent Marketing Centre so that you can have a look at how these at 10 million, right? Look at that, 10 million rental visits plus per month, how you can make sure that your properties are being seen through the highest quality marketing opportunities utilising this particular platform. Because we all know you can go in and put a property search for your area, and if you don't do this every day, every week, every month, guys, you need to be having a look at what's happening in your market. How are your properties comparing? What's the advertising, the design, the languaging of adverts, the bullet points versus paragraphing, what's the process by which somebody can navigate through a listing on realestate.com.au, not just for your properties, but for your competitors' properties too. Please make sure that you go on and have a look at that. 3 times more visited site to the nearest competitor, no brainer. But you've got to stand out, like I said. You know, when we're talking about standing out, you know, that's around making sure that you've got the right ads, the photos. So Agent Marketing Centre, I've talked to you enough about that. I want you to head over there and watch my previous webinars on getting that advertising right. Now you need to work into the showing space. So they've gone online, they've had a look. Now, we know traditionally, off we go down, we're doing an open for inspection. Here's my rule on time and process with technology when it comes to the showing. Stop today and revert back in the rear vision mirror, and I want you to have a look back. Oh, sorry, I probably should go like that. Have a look back at what you did in the last 2 years. I'd love you to take a look at the results. Were there multiple options for people, prospective tenants, to look at property? Yes. Did we lease property with some tenants having not physically viewed it? Yes. Now, at the risk of sounding, and I need to preface this with the fact that I am not telling you that we should all be doing virtual only inspections for prospective tenants of prospective rental properties. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, please, when we think about pre-COVID, what I hear a lot of is we're going back to doing opens. We're going back to doing privates. We're going back. I do not go back. I only walk forwards. With my business, with my clients, with my coachees, we only move forwards. Yes, we review what has happened historically. With reflection on that, we determine what we're taking into the future. When we're talking about time and finding space, that's not just for us, that's also for our consumer. So how do we orchestrate the showing phase in order to provide time for the consumer and time for us, the space? Well, of course, we can do virtuals, we can make sure our advertising is right, as I mentioned, really hit the nail on the head when it comes to that, you know, bullseye for the target market, video content, floor plans, live viewings by virtual viewings. You can consider doing all of those. You can also, of course, move forward with open for inspections, private appointments. That's up to you. But think about the usage of the time and the process inside of that. Now, inside of that element, once you've moved past the decision-making process around that video work, is the next phase is something that you can control, and even in part, we can start to control this during the showing. Please make applying for properties easier. I'm begging you. Tenants are begging you. It has become, in some businesses, very cumbersome, clunky for the tenant. I know I've applied for a property before, and I'm not joking. You'll laugh when you hear this. After 4 hours, 4 hours of trying to get this application in, processed, uploaded, downloaded, the system was clunky. It wouldn't take the volume that I needed in terms of my documentation. There were too many people on the platform at the same time. The thing just kept crashing, right? My husband's laughing at me. He's like, Fiona, you're meant to be the PM expert. You're not even able to apply for a rental property. What's going on here? Partly it was because the business had not stepped through their own process. They hadn't experienced what it was like as a tenant. But equally, the system was not able to cope with the magnitude and the process and the service expectations of their clientele through that process that they have, which has of course been changed. But since then, we know people are on this device. So if I'm on this device, where do I want to be able to apply for a property? Here. What's the quickest, easiest means by which for me to apply for a property? Is it filling out a form? Is it filling out multiple forms? Or is it having it all in a one-stop shop? I think it's pretty easy. Why do you use Uber for your home delivery food? Menu log. Because every time you order from a different restaurant, you don't want to have to fill out a different website, a different form, a different app. You're doing it so often. Think about the average tenure for a tenant in one of your properties. Does somebody move every 6 months, every 12 months, every 18 months on average? Do I want to, and by the way, when I move each time, which is an 80% stress level for me, each time I move, I'm applying for multiple properties, so I've potentially got to do all of that again. Time-consuming, stressful, and then what comes down the phone to you, what comes down the email to you when the tenant is stressed and they're feeling overwhelmed and they're frustrated and they're scared that they're not going to have a property? Right, they take it out on you. So let's reduce those stress levels. Let's reduce the process. Let's make doing business easier by creating a tech-based joint approach on how we apply and accept applications for properties. Now, of course, realestate.com.au through Ignite have created the tenant application system, which I have looked at and I think it is fantastic. And as you can see here, the application process starts at the showing phase with a QR code specifically for that property. The tenant scans the QR code on their happiest device in the world, scan it, they've already potentially even got their application already set up in Ignite, press the button and submit. How amazing. Now, it's a really simple and easy way for tenants. It's faster processing for you. It's faster for the tenant. The security levels, and by the way, many businesses are sitting in a security nightmare at the moment with how they're managing and saving their applications that they're receiving digitally or otherwise, email and so forth. You're housing an incredible amount of tenant personal information. Obviously, with this system, the security is increased and you've got two-factor authentication as well. So we know there's single check applications so that they can set their profile up and then they can update it over the years. If I'm a tenant and I'm going to be a tenant for the next 5 years, maybe I'm living in 3 or 4 properties during that time. In that time, I've got co-tenants, share arrangements, I'm moving states, but I'm able to keep all of that information in the one spot. It's helping the tenant, but it's also helping you, which I'll show you. Right now, Ignite is of course, it's fully up and running. There's thousands of agencies using it, and we've already had 900,000 applications for properties made. You'd probably be interested to know, oh, sorry, that's 1.6 million applications made, sorry. There's 900,000 applicants sitting in there. Oh, it's not working. And in March alone, some of the stats will show you that a tenant on average applied for 8.3 properties, right? So where we go, oh, we want the tenant to apply on our form, we want the tenant to apply this way or using this system. Now imagine you're the tenant and it takes you half an hour every time you want to fill out an application form, pull all your data together, submit it, get it across. They're having to do that on average 8.3 times, and that's potentially every 18 months, right? So let's think about time process. Each property we know that's sitting there using the Ignite system at the moment is getting 8.93 applications per property. So that's almost 9 applicants that your applications, should I say, could be multiple applicants that you're having to manage through email, through people dropping things in, you know, submitting perhaps some elements online. So let's just get this together. Your process should be to create in the application space, how do I get more time? Well, let's remove the time suckers. The time suckers is all that wasted time where we're moving applications around. We don't have them all in one spot. We cannot succinctly see them. We're opening and shutting and closing. Here, using Ignite in realestate.com.au, a tenant is able to go through, put of course, all of their application details in there. They can put their income, pay slips, all their identification, their driver's license, their passport. It all gets uploaded in a secure system. It's housed here for you to go in and access. When they click your property and over it goes, they submit the property to you. Now, once that's done, of course, and like I said, it's got the verification processes there. But once that's done, you've got all that information applied. It's now sitting in the approval section. What does that look like? Well, like I said, we're not going to have emails flying everywhere. It's sitting here ready to be approved. Now, ready to be approved, we don't want those emails. We want them all in one spot. So you log into your Ignite. Imagine this, you've got an application system where you log in. Here's all of your properties that are currently available. You can see instantly how many applications are sitting in there, how long ago the property was listed, what the date is that it's available, how many views it's had, great data there. And then now you click into that and then we start to see the details of those applicants. So I'll give you this one as an example. So we've got a property sitting there in our digital dashboard. Wow, boom, technology supporting us to service the client. That application process, that's the administrative piece. Remember I mentioned the mechanical versus that nitty-gritty end, right, the pointy end? So the mechanical is sending in your application, making sure that it's got all of the appropriate data there, no going back and forward, I need your ID or I need particular information filled out about earnings and so forth. In it goes, pre-populated, arrives to you, notated as completed, and you can see there at a glance, those 8.93 applicants, you see them all, one on top of the other, and you can at a glance look at how your tenants are, your prospective tenants are ranking in regards to those minimum standards for renting in your area. Now, you click in, again, application summary, there's all the data, and you can see how long they want it for, you've got all the pet details, and that's all, you know, some new improvements, constantly improving here on realestate.com.au's Ignite system and the platform, and open, of course, to all of your feedback as you're using the system. But you can see it as a glance. Now, you can also automate your rental reference request. So you click the button, hello, I'd like a rental request. Do you know what? Over it goes, and in some ways it automatically does this. And so over it goes to the agent. The agent then on the other side of it, using Ignite, completes the rental reference, sends it back into the system, off it goes, uploads instantly, and there you have your rental reference all in one spot. Again, you've got scanning. We're not wasting time looking for things, finding things, collating, requesting, sending emails, making calls. It's here. The data tells the story. You demonstrate instantly, does this tenant have the ability to pay the rent? Do they have the ability to maintain the property? Application status. Are we going to approve it? Boom. Yes. Out it goes. Update the status. And we've got lots of features coming soon. Now, imagine how much time is available, space is created when you remove the clunky factors around the application process, giving you time then to spend that space with the tenants. Of course, in the signing phase, when the tenant is approved, what you're doing is you're getting the signature, but also instant off to whatever connection company, oh, I say whatever, there's a truckload in there that we integrate with through API into your CRM as well. So again, we are streamlining the communication and data sharing, data entry gone, automation in, increased service, support our front-facing actions with the clients, and allowing us to get on the phone and make those calls to get the clients and customers, our rental providers and our renters, to know us, like us, trust us, and use us. So how do we find more time and create connection? Well, we end up with this technology powered by, a supported by technology approach, not a powered by technology approach. Team, it's been awesome being with you today. I know that off the back end of our session, you're going to have the ability to go through, remodel what you're doing, look at the time, create space, have the right technology for the right purpose, and ultimately still be creating connection with your clients. If you are yet to check out your Ignite system with realestate.com.au, please get in touch with your account manager as soon as you get off this call. It's quick and easy to get started, and I know that this thing is going to save you time. Second step, go and check out all your other processes, because there's plenty of time to be found there by creating greater efficiencies through a supported technology approach. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I will also let you know that off the back end of today, our session is going to be sitting there over in the Agent Marketing Centre as well within the next 48 hours. So go and check that out. I'm also going to house it in the Real Plus community. So it's realpluscommunity.com.au, our platform. You can gain access there as well, which is free to join. We'll have a short poll available to see how we went on today's session, of course. But most importantly, if you've enjoyed today and you'd love to get some more info, I'm going to be running another session on Wednesday, the 18th of May. Again, super excited about this one, because in that session, I'm going to be talking about your online brand presence. I'm going to be talking to you about new business, growth, and how we've created efficiencies. Now, hey, let's get some more properties. How can we do that? What are the tools available for us? Let's get that thrown into the mix. I know we had a few questions. So as we're wrapping up, I know some of you are logging off. As we're wrapping up, there's my contact details if you need anything. The customer poll has just jumped up there, and I'm going to take a few minutes to answer some of these questions that have been popped through. All right, thanks so much for joining me. If you've got to run off. Questions. All right, so I've seen some questions here is about people leaving our industry. A couple of flexibility in the workplace. What do I think, and how could that be met? I think the first thing is that if you're going to have what we call a hybrid work model, okay? So if you've got people working in your office and you've also got people working remotely, that's what we would call a hybrid work model. Office, remote, hybrid. So what do we need to do? You actually need to create a hybrid work model plan. This isn't just somebody picking up their computer and heading on home, right, and working from home for the week. This is about making sure that you know what it is that people are doing, that they have access to communicate with their colleagues, with their associates, that not that you know what they're doing on a micromanagement basis, but if we've got some clear success metrics for their role, that there is set standards around operational behaviours when you're working in a remote environment, that you can create those. What we're now seeing out of the States, and it depends obviously on the type of business, customer facing is quite different. And of course, this is a much bigger conversation, so no doubt I'll get taken out of context. We'll spend a day working on this one. Is that outside of the context of this, is that out of the States, we know that we're working towards creating the workplace, the formal workplace, the hub as we call it, HQ here, Real Plus, that we're creating that as a place of connection, collaboration, education, motivation, integration, support, not simply doing your work. Because doing my work, unless I'm customer facing, I can do that from anywhere. I can do that from a train on the way through New York Station. I could do that living in the Bahamas, as long as I've got the time right. So what we're trying to work out is, for each of your businesses, you need to be thinking about what's the hybrid model, what's the functional work that needs to be done, what's that connection, collaboration, integration. Through the pandemic, we have had access to flexibility. We've done it for 2 years. Your businesses haven't fallen apart. So creating a hybrid of those two elements, ensuring that you can maintain the new work culture, collaboration and success, I think that's definitely the way to go. Hopefully that helped. Second question I had, guiding property managers entering the industry to manage conflict and high stress environments when they have little to no other experience. Wow, that's a big one. So I think the first thing is that number one is they don't own the property. That is what I tell everyone. You have not made a choice to own that investment property. That owner has made the choice to own that investment property. Come in every day putting a bubble around you that says it's not about me, right? It's not about you, it's about what you do. So understanding that you're giving that client choices and their choices are theirs. Not buying into their aggression, not buying into their sentiment, their energy. Making sure that you have an element of understanding and respect, but not ownership for what decisions they are making. Putting people through communication training, emotional intelligence training. I'm not saying conflict resolution. I don't necessarily like that term. Conflict management. So how can I manage the conflict? I'm not always going to resolve it because not everybody wins. When you win, someone loses. So creating a scenario and an output through conflict management that we can all live with. So guiding them through that, I think part of the challenge that we've got as an industry right now is we're actually talking about how bad it is ourselves. So maybe if we actually remodeled it and started looking at some of the good things, don't get me wrong, there's some things that need to change, I get that. But as a business, instead of coming in and teaching them all of those, which we need to, but just not just teaching them all of those, almost like a negative reversal training, but how great it is and how you're a helper and how you're going to support people and you're going to navigate it and you're not going to take it on, but you're going to mediate it and support them in managing it. I think all of those elements will be good. And of course, we've got stuff on the Real Plus community that you can jump on and have a look at there as well. My last question is, what are the best platforms for increasing brand presence? Well, hello, we're on realestate.com.au's webinar today. I think it goes without saying, it's the #1 platform in the country for consumers. We know that our landlords and our tenants, our renters and rental providers are on here every day, whether or not they're active or passive in their looking phase. So I think that you better start there. And that's exactly what we're going to cover off in our session later in May. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. It's been awesome to be with you as always. I wish you all the very best for the road ahead. And if you ever need anything, please make sure that you do reach out here at Real Plus and the team at realestate.com.au. We want you to make doing business easier. Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy your day.